Okay, so our first step is we need to open up your desktop and create a new folder on your homepage. Now you're going to go ahead and call this whatever the name of the project is. So I'm going to call it Master Sun Short. Perfect. So go ahead and open that up. That's going to be your sort of master file folder where all of your files and everything go and sit inside. So inside of here, we're going to create a few different folders. So I'm going to go ahead and create one here called Files. Now that's where we're going to be saving our Premiere files, our After Effects files, anything, any other sort of programs or anything useful that we need. I'm going to create another one called Rushes. Now this is where if you're doing any sort of voiceover work or any talking to camera like I am here, where we're going to store those. So open up Rushes, and inside here we're going to create two more folders. One called Video, that's where I would put the clips from this camera, and then one called Audio, which will sit here. And that's if I do any voiceover work, that's where I'd store those files at a later date. And then back onto the home page. So we're going to create another folder called Assets. I'm also numbering these just so that they sort of sit in order and they won't rearrange by name or anything like that. So they're organized by the number here. So this is number 3. Inside of here, we're just going to create one called Photo. So this is where any sort of photos we download offline are going to be stored in. One called Video, one called Music. It's obviously quite obvious what's going to sit inside of all of these folders. SFX, Overlays. Perfect. So that's all of the assets that we'll be using to go along with these videos. And then we're going to create one more folder, which we're going to call Exports. So 004 Exports. And inside of there, you're just going to create one more folder, which is going to be called, let's call it Drafts. So these are just referencing versions, things that aren't the final uploads, and then create one more, call it Final, and that's where you're going to have your final render, your final video that you're going to upload to the YouTube channel. So that's nice and neat. So this is where we're going to be storing all of our files, rushes, assets, and exports. So everything from this project is going to sit inside of these folders. So it's nice and neat and organized, and we know where everything is. Once you've got that all ready, we're going to go ahead and open up Premiere. Once Premiere is open, you're going to go ahead and create a new project. So let's open up the new project. You're going to go ahead and name this. So I'm going to call it Master Sun Short. And you're going to choose where you're saving this to. So I'm going to click on project location here, choose location, and I'm going to store it where in the folder that we've just created, Master Sun Short. Open that up and in Files here. So that's where that goes. This is probably your most important document, your Premiere file, because that's your global sort of overall file. So it's obviously quite important to know where that is. And also what Premiere will do is it will create autosaves. So every time it saves, it will save into that folder as well if you ever need those at a later date. Cool, perfect. So now you have your project here, and we're going to go ahead and open up the project folder, which is this one here. If you can't see that, just in your click window up here, and you want to open up the project, which is here. So that's your projects, and that'll open up this box here. So inside of this, we're just going to create a few more folders quickly, just so that everything sits inside Premiere nice and neatly as well, just like it does in our folders outside of the software. So I'm going to create one here, call it the same number in 001, and call this one Sequences. So that is where all of our editing sequences will sit inside. I'll go more into that shortly. I'm going to create another one, 002, call that your Rushes. Another one, 003, call that your Assets. And that should be all for now. I'm going to quickly open up Sequences. I'm going to create a folder called Raw. So this is where our editing, we can call it Raw/edits. So this is where all of your edits will sit. You're going to create one called Final. That's where your sort of final sequence will sit. And you're going to create one called Nests, which we will go more into in future videos, but it's useful to just have that ready. And then open up Rushes, same again. So you've got your video and audio in there, so that's where they're going to be stored when we bring them in. And then in your assets, you have same again, music, all of the same folders as before: photo, video, SFX, so that's sound effects. You're going to create a folder called AE, so this is just your After Effects animations that you're going to be storing inside of here at a later date. Perfect. So now we've got all of our sort of folders here ready, nice and neat. You've got Sequences, Rushes, and Assets. And then when you're bringing things in, you're going to be organizing them into these certain folders so that it's super nice and neat and you never have to worry where anything is. A few little quick tips as well. So once you've got that all prepared is What I like to do also is open up my browser, so whatever I am using. So for example, if I'm in Google, I'll go to my settings inside my browser, and I'll go down to my downloads, and I will change the folder location as to where my downloads are going. So essentially, if you just left it where it was, you'd have to keep going and finding those sort of files and everything that you're downloading. So if I put it straight into my Master Sun assets, it's going to drop straight into here, and then I can just drag and drop from there, and I know exactly where everything's going to be. So I've changed that ready. Another little tip as well, it's something that's super useful. So obviously from project to project, you're going to want to be creating new folders and things like that. So instead of redoing this folder every time and having to retype out all these folders inside of both Premiere and your Explorer, what I like to do is have a project template. So this is just something that I copy and paste. So inside of here, project template is what we created earlier. It's all ready to go. So for the future projects, I will just copy this, paste it, and rename that. So let's just say we had another project, I don't know, Master Sun 2, and then you have everything in there ready to go. And then finally, one last little tip as well is, at the moment we're currently working off of our computer, so everything's stored just on our desktop. Now what I would recommend doing is editing off of an SSD. So this is a solid state drive, and it has a really fast sort of read to write speed, so you can edit nice and quickly and shouldn't have any issues on your computer. If you were to edit off of your desktop, you're going to have maybe some playback issues and lagging and things like that. Also, there's not much storage on a computer, so it's nice to have all your storage on a separate drive that is super fast to edit off of. If you really want to be professional, I would recommend backing up whatever is on here. So if this was to break or get damaged or anything, or you lose it or anything like that, you've got a spare copy which is backed up on a HDD drive. Now these are a lot slower, so I wouldn't recommend editing off of these, but you'd have a complete backup. And even at the end of each day when you're editing, I would probably just make sure I've updated everything from this one onto this one, so that if I lost my Premiere file or anything like that, it's all backed up in another place, and you don't have to lose all your work and start again, because trust me, we have done that way too many times in the past. So I recommend always having 2 copies of all of your projects and your assets and everything, so that if anything's ever lost. So that's how to organize and be prepared, ready to start a video. It's always good to have good solid starting blocks so that you're nice and organized and not, wasting time further down the line.